All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 325 of the Restoring Report podcast. I'm super excited for the content we've got planned out for you guys today. As always, this is a podcast for young believers who are pursuing the goal of marriage and family, trying to get married as young as possible in a healthy way. I'm your host, Seth Hensley. I come on twice a week, every week on Thursday and Sunday to discuss not only the benefits of getting married young, but I attempt to equip and encourage you in your pursuit of that goal. And today we're going to be reviewing a video that was posted by Matt Fradd entitled Men Find a Woman with This Quality. He's interviewing Carrie Gress. I believe I pronounced both of their names right. If I did not, apologies to both. But I watched about 3 minutes into this interview and I thought it was a super fascinating discussion and topic that I wanted to share with you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see what they say on what Carrie Gress and Matt Fradd believe is and are good qualities to look for in finding a woman.
I'd love to ask your advice. What should young men look for as they date women? What kind of attributes or virtues should they try to find that let them know, okay, this is a woman worth,
right,
none of us are worth anything in a way, but like this is a woman I could marry.
Yeah.
I remember someone kind of giving advice to a woman saying, see how he treats other women. Like, see how he treats women who have nothing to offer him. Like, how does he talk to the waitress? Yeah. I like that.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting.
What might be advice for a young man?
It's funny. Actually, my husband and I went out to dinner last night, and normally I'm always the one that can hear the conversations going on around us, and it's not intentional. But
I know, I'm like you. I hate that so much. I wish I could just
Could I just turn this off?
Yeah.
Well, last night there was a couple behind us who was on a first date.
Okay.
And my husband could hear everything because the girl's head was right behind him. And it was so, just from sociological perspective, it was so interesting because they were both, I think he was MD and she was a PA or something. I'm not really sure, but both medical backgrounds and, all this chatter about that. But in the meantime, here's this woman, she's really beautiful and he was very attractive. And, at one point, he says, well, what are your goals in life? And she's like, I don't really have any. I had all these goals in school, and now that school's over, I don't really know what I want to do with my, it was, and obviously it's a first date, so maybe she's not ready to divulge something, but it was at least an hour in, and
She might be, I know what she's going to say because I watched this interview a little bit, but you might be assuming that she's going to say something like, find a woman who has goals and is moving towards a destination and has a vision and a purpose and a growth mindset in her life and stuff like this. And while all of that is, I think, important, I would advise you young men to just make sure you're looking for somebody who has the correct goals, because it's not enough to just have goals, I don't think. Because not every goal is of equal value. Not all goals are created equally, in my opinion. And I do realize this gets into an opinion thing, but yeah, I just don't think all goals are of equal value. And so I don't think just because someone has a goal that makes that person somehow ready for marriage. Let me rephrase that. Just because someone has a goal, that doesn't make that person someone that you should be looking for in the context of marriage, if that makes sense. Because women have goals for a lot of different things, and not all of them are in alignment with crafting a healthy marriage with you. Okay? People who are valuing their own personal ambition, their own personal hobbies, their own personal success in the workplace, their own personal advancement, their own personal growth above their growth with you and the bond that they're creating with you and creating under the headship of Christ. I don't think that is those goals are, I don't think people who, misalign their goals that way is someone that you're going to want to, pursue a relationship with. And so goals are not enough. I don't think that you can just marry somebody because they have good goals. Let's see what she goes on to say here, though.
conversation been going well, and he's already said, he would love to have a family and whatnot, but I think it's just that recognition of motherhood, in terms of that being a reality. I think that's something to obviously look for.
Okay, so she's saying that she thinks you should look for a woman who has the goal, the vision, the respect for motherhood. And I think that is beautiful. Yes, because you are going to be, if you're thinking about this in the long term, you are going to be raising children with this person. I'm gonna try and Google the verse that talks about arrows, as arrows are in the hands of a mighty man, so are children of the youth in Proverbs. So I can read that to you after she finishes talking. But raising children is a huge part of the Christian life for 99% of young believers in the world today. And so you're going to be doing that for 20 years. So like, and that's just the raising part. Like, I'm sure, like my parents, I still have a relationship with them, and it's obviously changed since I've gotten married, as it should, but like parenting, continues for the rest of your life. So that's a huge part of your life that you're going to be co-laboring with somebody on. And so like making sure that that person actually, has the desire, has the vision, has the, has the desire to move in the direction of having a healthy family is definitely something you're going to want to have, especially today in a world where this dink, dual income, no kids culture is being kind of worshipped and upheld as the ideal living situation for a young couple. Like what my wife and I are in now, basically that season, is people are saying that's the best season of your life, where you have two incomes, you both can do whatever you want with your time, you don't have any responsibilities as far as children go, and therefore you should try and elongate that season as long as possible. I don't think that's a scriptural narrative, like, at all. Particularly, just for so many reasons, but just to give you a few, there's a great deal of purpose that you get from raising children that I don't think people remember, because they're too like either calloused or obsessed with their dopamine hits and personal interests, and they don't want to give those up in favor of something more meaningful. And so, I think raising kids is just presented by a lot of people as a less than ideal calling, and it's not. And I think it's something that you are created for, in all likelihood. I'm obviously biased. I'm an elementary teacher, so I spend, a great deal of my time outside the home working with, kids ages kindergarten through fifth grade, and I really, really like it. It's a very meaningful way of serving. And parenting, I would say, is way more meaningful even than that, because you're pouring into and you're investing in your own offspring instead of someone else's. And, that anytime you're being charged with the responsibility of raising to some extent, however little, somebody else's children, or caring for them, or teaching them, or whatever your charge is, there's going to be a level of like where that stops. Like those children are not yours at the end of the day, and so you're being a parent to them. It's so complicated because people say like you're not a parent to these kids, and you're not. But you're fulfilling like every single duty to these kids that a parent does. So it's like you're supposed to teach them. You're supposed to provide classroom management and discipline and behavior, modification and accommodation. You're supposed to, teach them manners, social skills, emotional skills. You're supposed to be a listening ear for them when they're having a hard situation. You're supposed to facilitate healthy social lives for the peers in your room, but you're not their parent. You're not their parent, but you're supposed to do all those things. So it's like, I don't know. I just think it's funny because teaching is kind of like this really weird profession where it's like, you're acting as kind of a sub parent. Like while the other parents are at work making money, it's kind of your job to like give the kids parental training, just train them as children, as a parent would, but you're not the parent. So anyway, I think that's so funny. But it's very meaningful. That's my point. And so because it's so meaningful and purposeful, and you don't want you to be the first of your generation, the first of your family line, I should say, to say, this all the work that prior generations did before me that enabled me to be here, I am going to, pass on. I'm going to skip out on that responsibility. My line ends with me, and all of the work that people went through to give me the life that I have now is going to end with me. I'm going to stop it, and I'm not going to pass on the torch. I think that is kind of I'm not going to use moral language here, but I do like, I'm not going to say you're an evil person for doing that, but I do think that reflects something about you that maybe needs changed. And so, yeah, I would definitely think she's right. Look for a woman who has not only a good view of motherhood, but wants to be a mother, makes that, abundantly clear, is moving towards that goal. Yeah, and just doesn't have a bunch of stuff that she needs to heal through in how she views children and her role as a mother. Like, because, that makes it harder on your marriage, I think.
There's obviously so many other red flags. One of the things that I have seen so much of this year, and I think maybe it's just one of those things I'm seeing more of it because it's on my mind, but just the narcissist piece. Is this someone who's thoughtful? Is this someone who can respond when the needs of other people around her are she can help with? I think that's something very basic, and obviously a narcissist can do that in a way that makes them look good. But I think it is probably that kind of that same point of what is it? And this actually is Max Shaler has this great line about how motherhood is something where it mimics the love of God because it goes from the greater reaches down to the lesser. And I think that has to be something.
There's a great quote by, I believe it was, let's see here, John Wesley. He said, "I learned more about Christianity from my mother than from all the theologians of England." And I don't think I butchered that quote. I think he literally says that, but that's a beautiful way of looking at it. Of the greater going down to the lesser is the language that she used. Just the person who's in a position of caring for somebody smaller. That is a beautiful picture of the gospel, of what Jesus and the Lord and the Holy Spirit, what they desire for their relationship with humanity to be. So yeah, that's really good. I think that marriage is the clearest picture of the gospel that we get the opportunity to live out, but motherhood and fatherhood is also an extremely close second as far as an opportunity to live out a picture and form and representation of the gospel in our lives. So definitely not something that, again, I think people should pass up just because they have trauma or baggage or issues with, motherhood itself.
That happens in a way that's not self-serving. If you can see that attribute, that obviously goes a long way.
This sounds so cliche.
So maybe it's your soap.
This sounds so cliche, but like kindness toward children. Mm-hmm. Like if you're with a woman,
even knowing what to do with them.
Yeah, exactly. like she stops and she caring about things in my vicinity, and then a woman of depth. A woman who's interesting.
Yeah, and that's what was so fascinating about this.
Let's look at this this verse that I thought of when she was talking just about having a good view of having children. Proverbs 127:4 says, "Like the arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are children of one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be ashamed when they speak with their enemies at the gate." So here we have children represented as something that brings pride to parents, not something that parents should be ashamed of, or a life living situation that is somehow less than the dual income, no kids living situation that is so often idealized and worshiped by young people today. The scripture paints a totally different vision and representation and image of what it is to be a parent. Personally, I can't wait to be a parent. I think it's an exciting thing. I think it's an important and meaningful thing. And I think it's something that, most people are intended for many reasons that I detailed elsewhere. If you want to hear those, just search children on the Restoring Rapport search page. And we've done over 300 episodes so far. Many of the episodes that we've done on parenting and children, and just trying to get you guys, you young people, to see that as a good thing should pop up. So listen to any of those. But what I want to highlight here is it's like arrows are in the hand of a warrior, so are children of one's youth. And since I'm talking to young believers, ages 18-ish to 24-ish, on the importance of what it's like to get married young, of getting married young, if as long as you can do so in a healthy way. This is a verse that's talking about having children young. It says, like arrows in the hands of warriors, so are the children of one's youth. And there's this idea here that children are actually more effective in serving the family if you are able to have them young. and I mean, it's just also easier on your wife's body and easier to raise children when you're young. And, there's just, there are complications when you get older, because then by the time your children leave the home, you're, 50, 55, all that stuff. And I think all the people I know who have done that, they just say it's hard. They just say it's so hard, man. And so I'm just encouraging you. This is yet another reason, I would say, to get married young, and that God has designed humanity to be married at a younger age than the national average age of first marriage in the United States today, which is 27 for men and 27 for women and 30 for men. I think that's way, way, way older than you're supposed to be, according to God's narrative, married. And this is just another reason for that. Raising children is easier when you are young. And so and since children are always, generally speaking, healthier in the context of a two-parent union marriage, then getting married younger is kind of a necessity to have them have the easier path when it comes to raising children. And so, that's what my wife and I plan on doing. And I would encourage you to do the same, obviously. I mean, not that everyone has to do what Lainey and I are doing, but we definitely are passionate about this. Not just because we're getting to spend more time with each other, which I say all the time on the show. I think that's one reason, again, that getting married young is such a great thing, but also because raising children while you're young is just a better road, according to not only my opinion, but a lot of people that I've talked to. And so just keep that in mind when you're trying to consider what you want to do.
This date last night was, I kept waiting for something interesting to come out. And, there was nothing memorable. There was clearly no depth in this woman that it was. As she was talking, I just thought, this is just got to be exhausting to try and just carry this conversation.
It's like
when
trying
you can't.
to blow on a fire that has gone out, and you're trying to ignite
That's
something.
A really
and
good
there's
image.
nothing there. It's
Right.
just ash. Sorry, I don't mean to be too harsh on this poor woman, but I do remember having this conversation with a particular woman on an airplane once. Mm-hmm. She was sitting next to me. We got into this conversation. People don't do that anymore because, fair enough, I don't want to either.
Right.
But so what do you look forward to? And just travel and stuff. And it was just hopeless. There was nothing there. There was just, I'm like,
well, and it's like, okay, you'll have fun doing that. You'll have fun doing that, man. Travel, education, living it up, hobby pursuit, hobby indulgence, all that stuff. That's fun. That gives you dopamine, whatever. But that's not meaning, brother, sister. You're not serving there. There's no purpose there. There's no deep sense of this is what I'm supposed to be doing in those pursuits, right? It's just sort of entertainment. You're just entertaining yourself. And that is a very shallow vision, if that's your vision for the rest of your life. If you see your life as just a series of years where you're doing your best to entertain yourself and not be bored during your one life on this earth, that is a hopeless and purposeless existence, in my opinion. And again, it's not the way that I see young people encouraged to walk in throughout not only the Proverbs, but the rest of Scripture. Scripture is, especially in the Proverbs, extremely clear on children being a blessing from the Lord, delighting in the wife of your youth. Jesus Christ talks about laying down your life for your friends and of following him and picking your cross up in service of other people. That's some serious meaning. And that's an intrinsic reward that goes far beyond a dopamine hit supplied by a traveling experience. Okay, that's a deep sense of purpose that I think a lot of young people are missing today, because not only have they not been given the mission of marriage and parenthood as something that they should do by their parents, but culture is actually saying that they should not do those things, that they should reject those purposes that are prescribed by God and Scripture and what I would say their parents should prescribe, and instead go with this just sort of life of trying to entertain themselves constantly and having as much fun as they possibly can in their life, and not worrying about either tomorrow or the next generation or what the world will be like when they leave it. And that's just truly sad. And again, aimlessness is the result of stripping children of the purposes of marriage and parenthood. And that's why we see so many young, lazy or purposeless or aimless young men or women today who are just basically sitting and living with mommy and daddy, entertaining themselves as best they can with no sort of vision or purpose for their life, because they were given the option of, and the freedom, the total freedom without guidance of pursuing whatever goals and visions and aims they want. And so they're just kind of taking culture's prescription. Since their parents didn't give them the vision of becoming a healthy husband or a healthy wife and a healthy parent, they're instead just taking, culture's suggestion, which is have as much fun as you can while you're here, because there's no point or purpose to your existence and nothing matters after you die for you. So, I just think that's an incredibly sad thing to do. And we need to give men and women, especially young men and women, the purpose and the vision, the aim of marriage or parenthood again. I think that's a beautiful thing.
What do you love? What do you...
Right.
Nothing. It was just brutal.
And, obviously the other piece is like, can she read a book?
Yeah.
I mean, like, that seems like... It may seem...
How's that for a low standard? 2024. Can she read a book? And by that, I mean, can she read a book? Like, would she actually sit through one? Does she have the...
Right. And, well, the sad thing is, though, that I was thinking like something nonfiction, but now I'm even sort of like, maybe it just should be fiction because,
fiction's beautiful. Does she like fairy tales? Does she appreciate fairy tales? I love fairy tales.
Well, I was thinking more like Danielle Steele or something, but I think, I think the depth is a really important piece. I think that, no, I don't envy people right now. It's really gotta be
hard,
so
guys.
hard.
It's hard.
Yeah. So hard.
It's hard for you. I know it's hard for you young singles I just did an episode last week where Amir O'Donnell was basically talking about the difficulties that are faced by young people in the world who have entered the modern dating landscape and are trying to find a spouse. And it really is hard. And I just go back and listen to that and watch his whole video too on why he thinks that it's hard to date today, if you're interested. But I totally understand where you guys are coming from and sympathize. I was single once too. In the modern world, I was single up until 2023 when I met my wife. Actually, 2022 is when I met my wife, but 2023 is when we started dating. And so, I know what it's like.
Dating.
I want to tell you about Hallow, which is the #1 downloaded prayer app in the world. It's outstanding.
Okay, so he's going to run an ad here for Hallow. I actually checked out Hallow because I thought it looked really cool, but there wasn't much on there unless you were willing to subscribe and pay a fee. So for those of you who are interested, just check out Hallow. But I don't know. I didn't add another subscription to my stack of subscriptions that I already have now. And of course, people will, the common counter argument to that is, why would you put, however, $7-8 into Netflix every month and you won't put it into a prayer app? And it's like, okay, you might be right there, but also I don't know. You don't need the prayer app, just like you don't need Netflix in order to have a healthy prayer life. So I don't think that holds water. But that's just some thoughts on Hallow since he popped that up. But guys, I'm going to give you some of what I think are some important, things to look for in a woman, since she gave you her ideas of what you should look for in a woman. I'm just going to give you some brief ones going out here to close this podcast episode off. I think you should look for a woman who you know is capable of sticking around, because divorce is an incredibly devastating thing to go through, as anybody who has been through a divorce will tell you, or even a dating separation or a breakup or something like that, or a failed engagement. These people will tell you that it is a truly horrific thing to be abandoned by one's partner in the battlefield, or for the relationship to end for whatever reason. And so just be sure that your partner is capable of laying his or her life down in service of the union, in service of the marriage under Christ, and in service of you, and is not willing to ever give up on you, and will just stick to you through thick and thin, for better, worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, just like they actually vow to do at the altar. And so just make sure that the person that you're marrying is capable of following through with that. Number one thing I would say. Number two, I would say, just make sure you're aligned in your life vision. Unequally yoked, I think, goes far beyond just someone being a Christian. You can be unequally yoked, and everyone will tell, all Christian people will tell you this, but you can be unequally yoked with somebody who is a believer. And that is totally possible. So just keep that in mind. Man, look for a girl who's really, really in love with the idea of being a mom, raising kids, sees purpose and deep meaning in being a mother and being a spouse to you. Because if she's primarily interested in other things, like advancing her career or having fun in whatever A, B, or C hobby pursuit that she has, I would say, she might be fun to hang around, but her relationship with you is not going to be the priority. Like she's always going to be interested primarily in other things. And I just wanted a relationship with my wife where she was really, really interested in strengthening our relationship as much as possible and building our bond of connection. And from there, raising children from that. And so, yeah, I just think that's a beautiful thing. Look for somebody who is well connected to their community and has great mentors in their life and has a good relationship with his or her family. I would say those are really important things. Somebody who runs to you when she has a problem instead of away from you, I would say is a good one. Somebody who is an aid to you rather than a saboteur, which sounds really like everybody knows that, but just, a woman who wants to help you, or a man who wants to help you. I've kind of been talking to the men this episode, so but for those of you ladies who are listening, all these apply to you too. I mean, somebody who really wants to get close to you and lay their life down for you as much as possible. I think you can't go wrong with that. That's what Jesus said the greatest demonstration of friendship was. And being marriage is even beyond friendship. Paul describes it as becoming one flesh, literally two becoming one, which he, says is a mystery and a beautiful thing, even though he wasn't the biggest marriage proponent and freak that there has ever been. So yeah. But anyway, I think that's a beautiful thing. Just find somebody who is in love with the idea of a healthy marriage and willing to work for that. Somebody who talks about all the deal-breaking issues with you up front. Those are some beautiful things that you guys should look for. So hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you have, reach out and let me know what you thought about it through the link in the show notes. You can send me a personalized audio voice message, giving me your thanks, questions, comments, feedback, and alternate perspective, your story, anything at all, and even give me the things that you think young people should be looking for in potential spouses and marriage prospects today. I would love to hear that. It would make me feel super connected to you, and it would make this a conversation instead of a monologue. You can do so through the link. Actually, that link's not there anymore. Sorry. You can do so through Facebook and Instagram. Just send us that voice message. Tell me what you thought of the episode. I would really like to hear that. And texts are great. Written comments are great, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Comment now and tell me what you think something is that is important for men and women to look for in their pursuit of a spouse. I would love to hear that. So thank you guys so much for listening today, and I will talk to you all next time.